What if you could sit down once a week with a colleague who's a flat-out warrior? This colleague wasn't a stud in dental school. He struggled. He returned to practice in his hometown, an area once labeled by USA Today as the second worst place to live economically in the United States. And this very same colleague went on to establish an historically successful general practice known worldwide. What if you knew someone that wanted to take you by the hand and show you everything you need to know, from treatment planning to leadership, to maximizing your journey in dentistry, or just life? You ready to be inspired? Welcome to the Lionhearted.
Hi everyone, Dr. Steve Rasner here, and welcome back to the Lionhearted Dental Podcast. I am in my 5th week post lumbar spinal surgery, and I want to tell you a couple things. Number one, remember when you were little and your grandparents said, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything? They were right. Okay. We chose a profession, ladies and gentlemen, that is daunting to maintain physical health and mental health. And nobody talks about it, or not enough about it. And the only reason the Lionhearted's talking about it is because it just happened to me again. And I got to tell you, man, part of my goal setting that we've been talking about to start 2023, I would work on doing something for your physical and mental health every damn week. And it's easy just to say it, but habits take, I think they say 30 days. And I used to be prolific in the gym. I'd go to the gym 3 times a week into my mid-50s. The problem I had is I did things earlier in my career, in high school and college, like powerlifting and stupid sports like that. Powerlifting is what you do when you're not fast, or you don't have some athletic skill, because anybody can be strong if you're willing to train. And that's what yours truly did. And it came back to bite me, particularly with the poor posture that I've maintained over the years. So, number one, let's start with that. I have a good podcast for you tonight. I'm going to give you a little teeny break this week from the drudgery of goal setting, starting your year out right. As you know, I'm so capable of taking a left or right turn with you, which I'm doing tonight. We'll come back, because remember, my goal a couple weeks ago was to begin over again. And I'm doing that with you this year. As if you first turn me on to listen for the first time ever. What would I say to you to guide you into the best year you ever had? Whether you're right out of dental school, whether you're an associate, or certainly whether you own and operate your own practice. And I've only done a couple to this date, but I feel like I'm off to a good start. And one more thing. I know I did this last week, and I'm going to keep doing it because it's my show. We moved our implant live surgery course, and the new date is May 5th and 6th of 2023. And normally they are blown out, sold out months ahead of time. But somehow I got sidetracked with my surgery, which, hell, every week for a month preceding it, I had to take, it felt like 17,000 tests to be ready. So, new date, May 5th and 6th. If you've had didactic training in implant dentistry, and I approve of that, look, I don't want you to come to the course, place 4 or 5 implants. Actually, it's more than that. anywhere from 6 to 10. Because I can make that happen. It doesn't make you qualified to place implants. It is a complex arena of dentistry that comprises implant dentistry. And you can't learn it in a weekend. That said, there's an abundance of you that take didactic and you wait too long to jump into it. And if you wait too long, it can be very intimidating when you're ready to do. And that won't happen at the Rasner Institute. The instructors are 1 instructor to 2 doctors, even more sometimes. So I would think it's in my private office. We've done it now for close to 7 years. And I think those of you that's part of your goals, or you have an interest in that, I think you would love it. May 5th and 6th. Okay, let me read this to you. It's very brief. A staff member at the Ritz-Carlton in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, went out after 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday to buy business shoes for a guest who had flown in for a job interview the next morning, and he had forgotten his own shoes, size 10. The very next morning, size 10, black polished shoes were waiting at the guest's doorstep in time for his interview. That is called a wow story. WOW. From the Ritz-Carlton. And by the way, if you Google wow stories, there's many, many businesses, not just hotel chains, that have such stories. So what's interesting about this one is that one of the HR, human resource directors, one day realized that they had thousands and thousands of stories like this, that they weren't doing things like this once in a while. It was just how business is done every day at the Ritz-Carlton hotel chain. Now let me tell you a couple things that tie this together. We are going to talk tonight about what I think's wowing your customers or our patients is fun. That isn't the hard part. That's the fun part. The hard part is nailing down your level at whatever level you're at. If you're out 2 or 3 years, you're not at the same level of a clinician that's out 6 to 8. That's just the way it works. And so nailing clinical excellence, whatever level you are at, is the beginning and end all of your success. Now, the Lionhearted Dental Podcast is not dedicated to average or mediocre. And I assure you that there are many, many clinicians that you all know, and myself, that are extraordinary, that would blow me away, and some of you. And there are many clinicians with such skills who struggle, who go broke, who never come close to reaching the fulfillment that is right out there in front of you in private practice, who never can go to a fee-for-service practice because they don't have enough dentists. They don't have enough of a patient base, and the leap is just too frightening for them. You understand? It does take a really strong base to leap out and say, I'm going fee-for-service. And I've told you many times that is not a one-day decision. It's about a year decision where you wean out, I said 1 year, where you wean out the worst insurance plans you presently take. They're not all the same. You don't even know, do you? You don't even know which ones are the worst. And that's why your first monthly, not a morning meeting, if you follow my podcast this year, the last one, I broke down the difference between a morning meeting and a monthly meeting. Morning meetings are to reduce the bumps of that day. And you need to, because if you have a number of bad days in a row, which we've all had, it's easy to gang up on yourself. It's easy to hate the profession that you and I chose. And bad days are not an accident. Oh, wait, newsflash. Josh, my producer, told me to say this, and he's right. I'm going to have my first guest on within the next couple podcasts. And by the way, I get solicitations all the time from many well-known people in dentistry that you might even enjoy. It's just not where this podcast is going. But this person you're going to have, I will promise you, I'll give you 2 weeks and then 1 week notice, is very important. Probably the most important person I could ever interview for you, because her name is Michelle. And Michelle has been, for 42 years, the person that presents dentistry, the cost, to my patients. She's also the person that takes new patient phone calls. Can you imagine that? It's been 42 years. I have, fluctuates, 20 staff members. I only really allow one, her, to take the new patient phone call through the complete process. Yes, others can answer the phone and set it up and say, is it okay if Michelle calls you back within the hour when she's tied up with a patient call already? That's how important it is to me. And I could probably train somebody else out of 18. But to be honest with you, I don't get a plethora of calls. When you've been a dentist, a fee-for-service dentist, for many, many years in a small community like I'm in, when you are not the dollar store, that's what I tell my patients, by the way. I kind of say it pridefully. At some point, in some early stages of a new patient consult, I do say, I'm not the dollar store, nor for good reasons. For the staff I have, for the products I use, for the labs I have. You can't be, guys, everything to everyone. And so, anyway, so when I do that podcast, either you're going to want to show it to your new patient coordinator and you will learn a number of things, or I wouldn't waste her time or your time. Like, how do you get the significant other to show up to the first appointment? That's huge. How do you screen a patient without insulting them? And one of the things Michelle asked the patient is to bring their significant other. Once in a blue moon, you'll offend somebody, particularly if it's a female. Because a female can understandably presume that you're being chauvinistic. I get it. It's not worth not doing it, I can tell you that. How do you present gigantic cases to a patient and then ask them to pay you up front? Just a bevy of information. I could come up here and tell you the millions of dollars she has sold. I'm not sure whether it's 30. I was thinking about this the other night. Or 50. It's a lot. It doesn't matter. Michelle could care less about coming on my show. She doesn't get paid for it. How do I have any special bonus system over the years? There's probably nothing I could ask her without even prompting her that you're not going to get a bona fide, honest answer. I almost wish you could call in. You got me thinking. All right. Of course, I get off track, but my producer wanted me to say that. So you'll have 1 week's and then 2 weeks notice. I haven't even told her yet, by the way, or asked her. Okay, she'll be happy to do it. So what happens with these wow stories is that the Ritz-Carlton realized that it was such a part of their culture that every Friday at a Ritz-Carlton, whether it is in Sri Lanka, Africa, where I stayed, by the way, last September, or Los Angeles, they have a Friday meeting where somebody shares a wow story. So what's the point? Why is wowing your patient such a big deal? Here's why. Do you understand that you could probably do the most beautiful aesthetic case you've ever done, and the person you did that on is extremely unlikely to tell a lot of people? Do you know why? It's probably not that different than a guy that gets a hair transplant, or a woman that gets a boob job, or whoever. A guy gets liposuction. It could go on and on. Because people that spend money, significant money, on aesthetic services want the others to not notice naturally. Okay? Nobody wants to come home from your office and tell all their coworkers, look at my smiles. You guys notice anything different? I hope you do. It cost me $24,000. It's true. Obviously, their family will know. And eventually, if it's really out of the park, people will notice. But if you tick somebody off, I got a 1-star review last week for the first time probably in 5 years. And I was really, really mad at my staff. I asked them if they knew about it, that they knew it was. And I have trained and taught my staff to forget it's always the patient's fault. They're nasty. They're a you-know-what. Rhymes with a witch. Because I think most of the time, there's a reason they're a witch. I do. And my staff knows not to mess with me. You talk to me about somebody gives me a 1-star review, you better tell me what really happened. And even as they were telling me, they were trying to sound as if it was their fault. And what happened in this particular patient is that this patient wanted to wait on radiographs because he knew she wasn't in the time limit. And one of my hygienists convinced her that it was. And apparently it wasn't. That's why everything counts. It was easy for me to trace this back because my insurance people know that if they get, now you might ask why I have insurance, so I'll come back to that. They know that I expect them to document everything. So just because you're out of network, you understand, doesn't mean people can't come to you. What you have to do is you have to check with insurance, their insurance, which we do every single day, on exams and pro fees. Because if they're covered to go out of network, some people are 100%, and the check goes to your office. Do you hear what I just said? So I'm a fee-for-service practice, yet there is some percentage of patients that come to me for exams, for that part of dentistry, recall, initial exam, whatever, and they will get 100% coverage, and the check will come to me even though they're out of network. And if that's the case, we will take and participate in that part of it. Everything else, they have to pay out of pocket. So this patient felt ripped off, and I completely agree. So I instructed my team to give her back the money. It was $180. 100% our fault. It's easy for me, and I hope it is for you, to be clear enough in your judgments about what's right and what's wrong. To me, it infuriates me that would happen, and my staff would let it get to the point of a 1-star review. Okay, so wowing your customers. If you go on Facebook or Instagram or some other BS social media vehicle, you will see, if you're on there for 5 minutes, something about wowing. I even hate the word, to be honest with you. There are many, many, many leaders out there that will teach the wow thing. And I really hate the name of it because it sounds so hokey to me, to be honest. But why this wowing? Wowing only matters if your clinical excellence is rock solid. So how do you know that? Sometimes you got to be honest and look in the mirror. Do you put a new crown in a lot? More than just a little? And have a problem with it? Think about what I just said. It comes off. It causes pain. The patient doesn't, and they need a root canal. The patient doesn't like the feel of it. I've had all of that happen, by the way. All the 3 I just told you. Just not a lot. Do you misdiagnose? Do you need more training? Can't we just cut the you know what and be honest? We're not all equal. We're not all equal in our commitment to CE. Every time I take a CE course, I feel 1 notch better than I did before I did. I mean it. So if you're a practice that's riddled with clinical issues, then don't do any of the wow stuff yet, because you can't. It means nothing. But if you do, or you're on your way, okay, whatever it is that your niche is, even if it's sleep medicine and you have a host of patients that you've helped with sleep disorders, if it is TMJ, neither of which do I really treat, by the way, and you're really good at that, you know what's an easy one to be good at? Overcoming fear in your patients by using sedation. So, if you do that, and you're great at what you do for most of the year, let's put it like that, wowing your patients creates a deeper sense of loyalty. They know they'll never get this somewhere else. And it's certainly a great way to market, even better than that aesthetic case that you hit out of the park. So what are ways that you can wow your patients? Well, it can start with your reception area. In my reception area, which is spa-like, I swear to you, I don't have marble in there. I have very nice furniture, beautiful wall-to-wall carpeting, and nice subdued lighting. But I have a refreshment center that's always stocked, and I mean it's a center. It doesn't just have water bottles, apple juice, orange juice, all kinds of crazy snacks. They're good. I've seen people, older people especially, load up their coats on the way out with my stuff. I have. It's embarrassing. That wasn't the point. The point is they walk at coffee, of course. But you want to add a couple wows to that? Look up Otis Spunkmeyer. I don't even know if he still exists. So over the years, I told you wow stuff is fun. Over the years, because you do what you think about. And we have these meetings. What else could we do? And we baked chocolate chip cookies in the reception area on purpose because it smells divine. And on top of that, we did a fresh homemade bread. Now, if you do that in a waiting room that's got ripped up tile and ripped up furniture, no, it starts with the physical setting. Let me tell you what else you can do. you stick to your word. And that takes a lot of discipline. Somebody comes in, can I have this you get this all the time. My daughter's getting married, blah, blah, blah. You got to spread that crap all over the office, on the chart, at the front. It's literally, see, you always hear me tell you that it becomes the responsibility of the clinician in charge, whether you're an associate or the doctor with your own practice. You got to be the one, because you just can't count on anybody else all the time. And I find myself, I guess you can call it micromanaging. I don't care. Somebody mentions a date to me, I'm scared to death we're gonna blow it. Okay, stick to your word. That includes having them out on time. Don't take the appointment. Don't start the appointment if you really can't have them out on time. Oh my God. I have several associates. One pretty slow. Very good, but slow. And it wasn't that she took 2 hours or 3 hours to do 3 fillings today. It was that the next patient was kept an hour waiting. Another good reason, by the way, to have a sedation practice. I think the dental gods will strike me for this, but when they're sedated, the wait doesn't feel as long. Or they didn't know they were waiting. Sorry, it's just true. But this patient was not sedated and, of course, knew. Give them more than they expect. You've heard me talk about this before, and it's easy. I do it probably, and so do you, every day, clinically, and a couple times a week personally. I give them more than they expect. They lose a tooth off of a partial, not even mine, or a denture, not even yours. I have trained my clinical team. I sent them to a local lab. I told the lab why. I said, you guys don't care about putting a tooth back on a partial. They can't add a clasp or anything like that, but they can laboratory level add teeth to a partial or a denture, even if it's not ours. And when the person gets to the front desk, it's fun to say, there's no charge for that today. Keep us in mind if you or your friends ever need a dentist. It's pretty beautiful, right? I think it is. And very, very often, trying to drink a lot of Gatorade in my recovery. I don't drink enough fluids. How often do you go in to do a crown and you didn't see the decalcification on the adjacent tooth? We will throw in a filling quite often. Or something I can't think of right now, that we don't nickel and dime the patient for every single procedure. We just don't. I've done everything from extra implants very often, and I'm sure many of you have too. Give them more than they expect. Let me teach you one more thing. When you do that service, be sure the front desk tactfully lets them know what that service would have cost. It's much more powerful. Don't keep it some secret that they never know the worth of what you did. And then personally, it can be doing something for your patients each week that has nothing to do with business. A phone call, a card, flowers, acknowledgement, a book you might buy for somebody. Have somebody prompt you because you're too busy. Last thing I want to tell you before I run out, and that's this. Respond quickly. Respond quickly to a patient request. This is how you do that. Especially in the beginning of your practice, learn to cross-train. So I remember when I had 4 or 5 staff members and I had 1 insurance person, I would teach a second front desk person to learn enough about insurance and billing that if somebody called with a problem with their bill, they never had to hear that Tara was gone for the day. She'll call you tomorrow. or Tara's on vacation or whatever it is. Okay? People don't care. In fact, it makes them more mad because they identify that with your practice. Never can get an answer, even if that's not true. Okay? The same thing with empowerment. I gave my team, my front desk team, several financial empowerment tools. Like, they could take this, and I did this 15 years ago. They could take up to $200 off the bill of a patient who was disgruntled if they thought it was in the best interest of the practice. That was the rule. That's it. When you tell them, when a patient calls you and complains about a bill, and you have to tell them I have to check with the manager, it's already over. They already hate you, even if you take money off the bill. I'm telling you, people don't really like to be contentious. They don't want to really tell you that they're mad, so they can look you in the eye and act like they're understanding, and you're on their hit list. Because unlike the aesthetic patient, they'll tell everybody. Or the patient that lost insurance. Isn't that common? They have the same rule that they can give up to 20% off. Do I make less on that patient? Absolutely. Have I kept a bevy of patients who lost insurance or switched insurance? Are you kidding me? I'm fee for service. And I've worked hard, like many of you, to feel palpably better than any other place they could go. From the physicalness of what they see when they walk in my office to the wowing that's part of our culture. And by the way, don't underestimate the power of a wow in your team not carrying their trash into the office, smiling, understanding that it is a privilege for them to work in our organization. That privilege allows them not to work evenings or weekends or even Fridays. And we have to earn it every single day. Just like you. Have a great week, everybody. I'll see you next week with some additional goals, and I'll try to home in on that date for my first guest, Michelle. Have a great week and see you next week.